agenda. We're going to try to stay on time today. We've got some great, exciting news to share with you. At the end of the meeting, we will have time for Q&A. So I want you to be thinking about what it is you would like to talk about. There's a lot going on, right? Like, we're taking a break from our slows to get together and visit, but we know that CBME is coming. We know the new program requirements are coming. Thank you guys. The new certifying exam format. I mean, there's a lot. Public pass rates. So we are here to talk about that. We also understand that the conversation will go on longer than we have time for, so we'll be here, we'll be present after the meeting to talk about that as well. So before we get to our Secretary Treasurer report, Dr. Girardi has a special announcement.
Thank you for the 1 or 2 minutes. I'm Mike Girardi, past president, but when I was president in 2014-15, we created a coalition on psychiatric emergencies. We kind of saw the tsunami, the crisis approaching us, and it's just gotten worse. And because of those efforts, people have started talking, what can we do to solve this problem? We learned that a lot of us aren't as comfortable making dispositions or initiating treatment for psychiatric patients in the emergency department. Likewise, the psychiatrists, there's a dearth of them. Our emergency psychiatrists are like us psychiatrically. I mean, they have a little ADD, they work shifts, they're a lot of fun to hang out with. But what's happened is, I'm excited here to tell you that there's something called the Focused Practice Designation Pathway. Because you're all academics, you're familiar with that. It's the first step before we actually know there's some specialty, possibly. What we have going on is November 5th, we're going to be from COCERT at a BMS. And the public comment period ends October 4th. So I really appreciate you letting me talk to you for like 30 seconds to say, there's a QR code. You can go in on the ABEM site and get it, or get the whole application packet. CORE did sign off as an organization. Thank you very much to support us. But I just wanted to say thank you. I think that this is going to be a great year that we're designing. We have a curriculum in that application that we're going to be coming to you to help us refine it. In fact, I have a meeting in a couple hours to talk about curriculum development with some leaders in the college, and you'll all be involved, obviously. So I'll leave a couple of these cards here. You just go to the website, ABEM, and look up COCERT, and look up that packet. It's very exciting. We're going to have a bunch of emergency physicians who are going to say that I'm going to be a champion, like I was for PZM, like some of you are for toxicology, you name it. So it's an exciting moment, and I think we're going to win. So, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. This is not one of the exciting topics that Bo mentioned that we will be discussing, but I just wanted to spend a little bit of time to give you our financial report for this term. Starting off with membership. So as you can see, we're pretty similar from what we have been in prior years. There certainly is still some opportunity that we can do some outreach to try and bring all EM programs into our community. AA was a huge success, so thank you to all of those who have contributed to that. I think we had the greatest number of registrants this year, so fantastic work there. On this slide you can see we haven't made as much revenue as we had hoped for, but to offset that we've actually cut a number of expenses, so we're doing well overall. This just shows our cash position, so if you look at the bottom line here, you can see that we're in the black, which is great, but we don't have tons of surplus. But better than being in the red like we were last year. All right, this pie chart shows our total assets, and our investments are doing okay. You might be happy to see this operating cash number. I will tell you it is a little bit inflated. We still have some outstanding bills to pay, so don't bank on that so much here. This slide just gives a little bit more detail in terms of our asset breakdown. And then, like I said, our investments are doing okay. Approximately, we've had a return about 4.5% to date. And then this pie chart shows our liabilities. Like I mentioned, we still have a significant amount of outstanding bills in the realm of about $600,000. All right, again, you can see here what's in our accounts payable and our deferred revenue that this consists of. And then looking ahead to the end of the year, we're predicting that we're going to actually be under budget, both in terms of our revenue, but also our expenses. So we anticipate that we're going to come out ahead overall. Our Cord Cares Foundation does have money in its coffers, so that's wonderful. Like Bo mentioned, we do anticipate some needs. So thank you to all of those of you who have donated, and we certainly encourage you to continue donating to help our young commons. And that's all I have. Thank you so much.
No questions, no in-depth financial questions for Dr. George. He's really hoping for a lot of questions. We're going to do our committee report outs now, and we'll have the match task force, and then we'll have Amy give where's
little taller. Good morning. Mike Kennedy from Loma. This is the match task force. We don't have a whole lot to go over. That's all that new from our last meeting. Just a reminder on what we're working on. The work is primarily, what we're working on is to reassure applicants from all the work that we've done, from all the people that we've talked to, all the research that we've done. The primary thing that's going to help, or the primary thing that we can do, is to reassure applicants. So the things that we have taken on, as a point of reminder, early exposure, we have a group working on best practices on early exposure to the specialty. We have a group working on looking at the effect on learners, on having APPs, nurse practitioners and PAs, in the same clinical learning environment. And then we have a group working on graduate job data. The thing to update, the thing that we have new since our last meeting is actually graduate job data. We've finished a pilot study this year led by Trey Morris and Brian Millman. And I'll give you a little summary of what we found. We're still kind of pulling together the data. We surveyed 45 programs as a pilot study, got about 2/3 of them to respond. And essentially we're asking for how did your graduates do after graduation? What did they do after they left? I won't spoil all the data, mostly because I want you to read the paper. But about 1/3 went into fellowship, and the vast majority of them did really well in fellowship and got the spots that they wanted. Right, so 98% fellowship match satisfaction on the folks in our pilot study. And then the rest went into jobs, obviously. 95% satisfaction with the preferred employment model, and then 92% satisfaction with their actual job placement, which I think is really reassuring. It's really kind of strong data. I will caution you, don't extrapolate this to the entire country. I don't think that's we're quite in that place with the size of our pilot study, but this is very reassuring. We're working on kind of pulling all this data together and publishing it, and then next step is really kind of doing the full thing and the big thing, which will be a big lift, and we'll need some help with. So that is it for me. We have a meeting this afternoon. If anyone's interested in joining us, I'm happy to take any questions if you have.
Thank you, Mike. I'd like to also just put out a plug for our core committees and our task forces. There's so much work that goes on, and it's all for the betterment of our specialty and our programs and our future, which kind of brings us to APIC. And this is going to be, I think, a really good topic for us to talk about. There's some needed positivity that will come with this, since we hope that you are as enthusiastic and as excited about this as all of the board is. So,
those standing in the back, there are some chairs around here. If you guys want to sit.
So, there you go.
I am not that tall. And I apologize, I'm going to use some notes because I only got this data 48 hours ago. I'm Liz Worley. I am the immediate past chair of the Application Process Improvement Committee, if you hear us throw APIC around. And Alexis and I are the EM representatives to the AAMC and all things ARIS related. Tim is vice chair of APIC. Erin is vice chair of APIC, and Lisa Smith is our outstanding chair right now. She could not be here for ASAP. But I wanted to share some, what I think is good news. Alexis and I met with the AAMC reps a little over a month ago, and we told them that ASAP was happening pretty early this year, and we asked them for application data in time for the town hall today. So, as you know, ARIS opened the programs just a few days ago, on the 25th. And by Friday morning, the 27th, we had all of this data. So we just really want to thank our colleagues at the AAMC who were able to provide this to us in a timely fashion and include some comparison data from the past few years that we've been asking for a little while now. All right, so before I show you this slide, I want you to know the big picture here. The data I'm about to show you is true apples to apples comparison. It's going to be ARIS application data from when it opens to programs day 1 at midnight to 7 p.m. the next day. So 43 hours over the last 6 years. Since the 2019-2020 cycle, and looking at this year's data with the blue bars, you can see this is the largest number of total applicants that we have had for our specialty in 6 years. That's what we wanted to hear. And with the orange line, it's the total application numbers, which is still performing strongly, but it's not as high as the 2021 cycle, and that's okay, which I'll explain momentarily. I'll leave it up, but I have this same data like 3 different ways, because anyone that knows me knows I love Excel and spreadsheets. So, I thought the raw numbers were really important for people to see, and therefore they were worth sharing. As we saw in the earlier graph, the applicant numbers are higher than we've seen in 4 to 5 years, and significantly higher than our low in 2023. In addition to the overall growth of applicants, we saw growth in each applicant type, with the largest gains in allopathic applicants, followed by osteopathic applicants, and a minimal increase in IMG, so numbers that are not very different from last year's data. And given the over-application phenomenon that we noted years ago, we've seen the average number of applications trend down over recent years. And it's now kind of leveled out between last year and this year. And while this is likely multifactorial, it was something that we had hoped for our specialty a few years ago. So we're pretty happy with this result. And because we presented this slide similarly last year, I just had to make one more graph. So you're all familiar with this picture in these Excel colors. Wait for the phones to go down. I know everyone's snapping pictures. One more graph. I know it's a little busy, but I wanted to show you the trends by applicant type over the past 6 years. And note, again, the growth in all 3 over the last 3 years. I think it's something that we really need to be proud of as a specialty. And it's because of efforts from everyone in this room and everyone that couldn't be here with us today. So now, this next slide, really, really busy. Bear with me. It's the cross-specialty application data for this application cycle only. And what I really want to highlight here is that EM is in the top 6 of all the specialties listed. And if you look at who the other ones are, they're primarily primary care with internal medicine, family medicine, pediatrics, followed by the prelim and transitional years. But since this is a little hard to see, we broke it down by applicant type as well, and I just pulled the EM content for this year. Looking at MD and DO applicants, the top other specialties are anesthesiology, family medicine, internal medicine categorical, surgery categorical, and transitional year. And they're all in fairly low numbers, like the low 100s. And then looking at IMG applicants for several of those categories. And we've heard a lot of rumors and/or assumptions from people, and I'd like to dispel the rumor. We're not the second choice specialty for the large majority of our applicants. And again, I think that's something we really need to be proud of for emergency medicine. Thank you, Jess. I did do it. One more busy slide here. And if you thought this slide was busy, you should have seen the spreadsheet that came with it. But I condensed it down into two things here. In blue, you can see that the large majority of allopathic and osteopathic applicants are applying to emergency medicine only. 60 to 70% of our osteopathic applicants are only applying to emergency medicine. Greater than 80% of our allopathic applicants are only applying to emergency medicine. And then as shown here in red, the IMG applicants are primarily not applying to just EM. Greater than 70% of our IMG applicants are applying to EM plus at least one or more, and often more, specialties. So there's been another assumption made by many of us, and we needed this data that we asked for quite a while ago to prove it. And I hope the last few slides show that IMGs are indeed driving the cross-application numbers up. This is especially true for last year and this year, since IMG application numbers have increased rapidly. Greater than 70% of a much larger number leads to a much larger number, if that makes sense. So it's a huge group within our application pool. Now, once again, I'm cautiously optimistic for our specialty right now, now that I've seen these numbers, and I do believe we're trending in the right direction. We are a desirable specialty, as demonstrated by our recent application numbers. We remain the one and only choice as a specialty for the large majority of our applicants. And we know that MD, DO, and IMG applicants have the potential to make excellent residents when they are truly dedicated to our specialty. And we know that programs want to find these applicants for their programs. So I'm happy to field any questions. I'd actually maybe like to do it at the end, because I want to turn it over to Tim Fallon now so he can talk about finding those ideal applicants.
Thanks so much, Melissa, appreciate it. Tim Fallon, I'm the Associate Program Director at the Medical Center. Really happy to be here and be presenting this work on behalf of the committee. Just to remind you, APIC is a committee as well as members of the core community. I want to really acknowledge the work of Lisa Smith, who's our chair out of Bay State, was not able to be here at the meeting, but has been the driving force behind this work over the last year and has taken over where others have led. Aaron McDonough is the other vice chair from Cincinnati. Dr. Worley, immediate past chair, Dr. Alexis Peltier-Goody, who's our APIC Board Director Liaison from Cooper, and both serve as the EM specialty representatives to the AAMC and ERAS, who we've had a long relationship with and will continue to work with moving forward. So APIC has been doing work for improving the process of applications for a long time. And I want to remind you of some of the work that we've done, right? We're focused on making the system better for us and for applicants and for all constituents. APIC was really behind the introduction of program signaling, remembering that emergency medicine was one of the leaders of program signaling a few years ago. They were behind the coordination of the number of signals, transitioning from 5 to 7 in coordination with the AAMC, then transitioning back to 5 for the season. And there's been academic work that's come out of that, including a recently published paper looking at the experience of program directors with program signals in the 22-23 application season. As Dr. Worley just did, APIC has really continued to bring you data about the match so you can better understand the applicants to your program and the applicants to the specialty in general, and so we can all continue to kind of work on identifying the best resident for our program. And APIC has been a guide in the best practices for virtual interviewing, especially as we transition through, and then I don't know where we are now related to COVID, but as we thought about responding to that, and then also continuing equity in the application process for our applicants. APIC has really led the way in creating best practices for that. I do want to highlight where we were last year at Academic Assembly in New Orleans. So Dr. Worley and Dr. Smith presented updates from APIC. They They spoke about the new My ERAS application, which is really kind of a revamp and redesign of the application, mostly on the resident, us being on the applicant side. They kind of provided updates on program signaling, as we've talked about, and then kind of provided data around trends in applications to emergency medicine. And then the other topic that came up was our colleagues in OBGYN and the decision that they had announced last year as part of a multi-phase approach to transition away from ERAS and move towards a new alternative application program, alternative application platform, and that's really what inspired the work that we're going to talk about today. Following the board updates from AFIC, there was a packed assembly meeting or committee meeting last year that was standing room only, where we talked about a lot of this. And I'd like to thank all the members of the committee that continued to work with us over the last year to move this work forward. I do want to acknowledge the board and the role that they've played. So in consultation with the board following the OBGYN announcement, AFIC talked about the opportunity to explore an alternative application platform and received support from the board to continue looking into that. And then continue to work collaboratively with our committee to bring in the work that's we're going to talk about today. This is, what we're talking about today is the start of the discussion, but also represents a year of work that's been done kind of to look into this potential opportunity. As part of making sure that we engage with all the stakeholders in our community, I think this is a process that's going to be really important that we do this together and collectively, and that ultimately everyone gets to a position where they can make their own decision. But to ensure that we're kind of engaging with stakeholders in our community, we've created the AFIC Alternative Application Work Group, where we've engaged with stakeholders from representative organizations. You can see we've got SAM RAMS, CDM, AEM, RSA, the ACOP, RSO, EMRA, and EMAR. And moving forward, we're also going to include members from the core DEI committee, and also the SAM Academic Chairs work group, to make sure that we have a broadly representative sample of folks working on this. So, give you a little overview of things that we've thought about. So, the LANC and Thalamus, as many of you know, announced a formal working business relationship this year and new collaboration. We're going to speak about this a little bit in a few slides. But we are excited to see where that goes, and we're going to continue to work collaboratively with the AAMC and with their partners at Thalamus to see what opportunities exist within that platform and to see if we can make that platform work for us. As we started to think about alternative application platforms, one of the options that we looked at was the central application. This is an application portal that was created primarily within plastic surgery, but now has been expanded to other fields, including anesthesia this year. As we had conversations with them and explored that as an option, it really became clear that that probably is not going to be the right fit for us. It's a much smaller company with less support. And they've really taken on an approach of gradually development of increasing market share, meaning a few programs for plastic surgery or a few programs for anesthesia have chosen to host their applications through central application, while the majority of programs are still within the ERAS portal. I think that can be confusing for applicants. Those potential applicants need to apply in two portals, and so it was not the strategy that we were to pursue or look further into. And then ResidencyCAS is the other kind of platform that we looked into. We're going to spend a significant amount of time today talking about that. We looked to our colleagues in obstetrics and gynecology to take their experience and figure out some of the best practices and lessons that they had learned. Their CREOG, which is their kind of compatriot to Ford, their clerkship and program directors organization, really led this work. And they talked about the fact when we met with their we went with Dr. Maya Mahmood and Dr. Anne-Marie Connolly, who are their chiefs of education and academic affairs. They talked about the fact that this was really, their decision was a compilation of work that went back to 2019 as they came up with their 3Rs program, which was their Right Resident, Right Program, Ready on Day One. And they talked about the fact that ultimately this decision was building upon other decisions that they had made at those specialties to improve their application process. They had, over a stepwise approach, transitioned to a unified interview offer date. They had worked with program signaling, and then they had worked on the creation of a SLO, which was not something that they had previously. And then ultimately decided to switch to a new platform. And this year, with their launch on ResidencyCAS, have 100% adoption from their programs, who each chose kind of independently, but 100% adoption with ResidencyCAS. Another thing that they shared with us, which is going to be key as we move forward, I believe, was their 4 whys. And this was really, for them, their drivers behind their decision and what they were hoping to achieve. They identified that it was really important to them to facilitate holistic review. And we've been having conversations about holistic review for the last couple of years. I think we're best of our abilities. But they identified that they didn't really have the means and the tools that they were hoping for to achieve that. They didn't have an application that allowed them to identify those characteristics in their applicants, which I thought was the most key success in residency. And so they were hoping to better facilitate holistic review. They were hoping to reduce the burden on their program directors. They identified that within their specialty, they have a relatively high turnover rate of program directors with kind of a short time in that job. And so by streamlining the process and creating easier, more approachable tools that were easier for program directors to work with, they thought that would have a big impact on their constituents. They talked about reducing the burden on applicants, notably for cost, but also in terms of improving the experience for their applicants and allowing their applicants to better represent themselves. And then they talked about access to data and analytics and being able to craft an application and application process that served their needs. You know, Religion was similar to Emergency Medical Leader with signaling. They were one of the first programs that really heavily adopted a dual-phase signal. They had gold and silver signals. And they found that when they were working to try to make this work as best as possible for them and optimize it, they were not getting kind of the support that they needed from ERAS and the WMC. So those were their 4 whys. As we've thought about this over the last year, we identified our 4 whys. I think this is going to continue to be what we look to as we think about this potential for a new application. We talked about improving the student experience, reducing the burden on program directors, finding a application platform that gives us the ability to have customization, technology in our process and support, and then data, as Dr. Worley was talking about, right? Data so we can make decisions about who we interview, how we offer interviews, and decisions for our specialty. Looking at these more closely, we really thought about the student experience. We want to reduce the cost to applicants. There are a lot of financial burdens on applicants right now. The average medical student applying in emergency medicine applies to 46 programs, and through the ERAS portal, that cost is $810 just to apply before we consider other factors. We want to improve and simplify the application. We want to make it easier for them to enter their data. We want to make it so that applicants can really represent their true selves through the application and share with us those characteristics that are both unique about them and that are going to make them well suited to emergency medicine. We want to improve the experience for them of getting their MSPE, their complex scores, their letters. Already this year, I reviewed an applicant whose one of their slow was their request for the slow that they sent to the advisor and not the actual slow. And I think we all have these experiences, right? So we want to improve this so that on day 1, their application accurately reflects them and puts them in the best light. We want to improve the experience of interview acceptance and scheduling. Currently, this is a piecemeal system where they may be responding to emails, they may be responding to something from an interview broker, an thalamus, and it's confusing, it creates opportunities for conflict, so we want to improve that system for them. As we thought about program directors, right, this is the role that many of us find ourselves in, we want to improve the experience of applicant review. We are all trying our best to do holistic review, but we know that it is challenging. It's hard to find those pieces of data in that application that we feel are most relevant. It's hard to not be biased, swayed, or influenced by the piece of data that we don't want to review, that we want to kind of avoid or find irrelevant, and we want to reduce the total time. I was reading on the airplane the other day, and it was just so slow and tedious, and it's so slow and tedious at my office and at my desk too. We want to incorporate tools that allow us to support holistic review, and I think there are ways that we can use data analytics to improve our process of holistic review. We want to be able to customize the application so that we can see those things that are most relevant to us. We want to reduce disparity for programs. So the current system has free tools and paid tools, and those are not accessible to a lot of programs. And so we want to find a solution where everything is accessible to everyone, everyone has the same opportunities. And we want to incorporate everything in one platform so that you have your ability to receive applications, review applications, offer interviews, do interviews, all within one platform if possible. As we think about kind of features that would be helpful, we want something that's customizable, right? We want to be able to create an emergency medicine application that is unique to us in ways that we feel will help us identify applicants that are going to be successful in emergency medicine. That becomes even more important as the demographics of the applicant pool to our specialty change, and as kind of our success in the match changes from year to year, being able to customize, I think, can be really helpful. We might potentially choose specialty-specific questions, and as we think about something like the slow has been a wonderful tool for us, but currently gets presented as a PDF, and I find a lot of valuable information in reading those, but it's dense and hard to actually get that information out of it, right? we had a way to customize the application where the flow could have living data elements that we could visualize in different ways. I think that'd be really helpful. We want something that responds, as I said, to the evolving EM workforce. Lets us kind of change as our workforce is changing. We want to improve holistic review. We want to be able to surface those applicants that are going to be successful in our program, surface those applicants that have attributes that we're looking for, and where we'd like to potentially diversify our workforce. And then we want real-time support. I've already had 2 support calls with Thalamus this year, and we were open since Wednesday. But it's hard to get them on the phone, and we'll talk about that. And then data is going to be a driver, right? And we are very fortunate that Dr. Worley, Dr. Pelican have worked so closely with ERAS and AAMC over the last couple of years, if not longer. But it's taken a long time to get to where we are, and it's taken a long time to get this data to be able to present in real time. And as we were preparing these slides, we left those slides out because we didn't know if we were actually going to have it or not. And so I think if we're going to be able to choose those applicants for our program, interview those applicants that are highly likely to match in our program, and have success in the match, we need to know in real time what are the demographics of the applicant pool this year, how many people have applied, where are they applying from, and we need both program-specific data and specialty-specific data to make those decisions. We want to be able to tailor our interview approach, as I said. One thing that's kind of on the other side of this is our medical school advisors, our dean's offices, our med student advisors, need more information to help support students, right? There's no way for them to know in real time how that student is going to do, short of hearing from the student in November that I did not get a lot of interviews, right? And then it's kind of a scramble. So there are data tools that are built into these platforms that allow, if students get permission, allow dean's offices and advisors to follow them through the application process and see how they're doing, and also potentially compare them to prior applicants and see where their successes may be. And then we want, right, specialty-specific data for our ability collectively to do medical education research, publish, things like that. So where are we today and what's available to us right now, right? So the AAMC and Thalamus announced a formal collaboration for this year, for this application season, which is a big step forward. I will share that we have had the opportunity to buy the Thalamus tools, so in our program we've been using all their tools for this is our 4th season. And I think I've seen the good, the potential, and also some of the challenge. I'm happy to speak with folks about that. But I do think that this is a true opportunity for improvement in those tools. Traditionally, Thalamus has been a third-party vendor, and so they've relied on us taking data from ERAS via PDFs, and then they have abstracted that data from PDFs. And there were a lot of inherent challenges in that. It took time, there were delays in transferring applicants from one portal to another, and it was not always accurate. It didn't always abstract the right data. I think now, so there's now an API or an application programming interface, and now discrete data points go from one to the other. And so the data that we're getting across is certainly more accurate. It's still not perfect, but it is certainly more accurate. And moving forward, I think that collaboration is going to continue to grow and improve. Thalamus this year launched their holistic review tool, which is, to my mind, kind of a advanced scoring tool and rubric. It's not AI. It's not collecting or processing information on its own to this point in time. But it does allow you to identify domains that are important to you and your program, and then subcompetencies within those domains that you can score, and you can follow those scores across your season and score them in different fields, right, or different areas, right? So you may have one reviewer that's looking at certain characteristics that are going to be key, another reviewer that's looking at other characteristics, and you can pull it all together. So it's really a competency-based scoring tool that can follow your application applicants through all their portals. What do we all have access to? So we all have access to Core, Itinerary Wizard, and Cerebellum. Core, which in the initial iteration was called Thalamus, is really their tool that allows you to offer interviews, manage your interview day. The virtual interview can be hosted within that. The limitation to Core is that if that's where your reviewers or your faculty interviewers are looking at an applicant, they're still just looking at a PDF. There's no kind of clear, concise, or easy to digest presentation of that applicant. They do offer, in addition to Core, they offer Itinerary Wizard, which helps you build your interview days with the days on the calendar, and then the individual schedule of the date of the day. You can offer interviews, accept interviews, things like that. And then they offer Cerebellum, which is their approach to data analytics. I have not found this to be particularly helpful to me, but it is a data analytics platform that lets you look at applicants to your program. So specifically, track certain types of applicants, if there are certain demographics that you're trying to recruit for. Through the process, you can identify your self-identified underrepresented medicine applicants through the process. So apply, offer interview, accept an interview, things like that. But it's relatively limited in scope. And then they have their fee-based tools. And I would say their fee-based tools are good and have a lot of potential. There's Cortex and video interview. And Cortex is their approach to a review portal, right? So that's where they can present the data to you in a more digestible fashion, where you can review applicants, you can score them with your own self-designed scoring tools. It is still limited. You still have to open a lot of PDFs and do like nested windows, and was very challenging on airplane. And then they have a video interview platform, which we have used for 3 years. It works really well. It allows you to host a virtual video interview day without the need for Zoom rooms or breakout sessions. You just kind of like click on each item on your agenda and it opens the meeting. ResidencyCAS has something that does the same thing, and I think we'll probably do it better. So we're going to talk about ResidencyCAS, and that's going to be the crux of the conversation today. So we have spent a long time over the last year looking at this as an option and working collaboratively with the leadership team from Liaison. So ResidencyCAS is a product of Liaison. They're an application solutions company. That's all they do is applications. They work with all the constituents involved in that, right? So like from the applicant side to the program or school side to actually like the onboarding and bringing those people into your institution. They have 30 plus years of experience. They're involved in 31 health professions already. They currently process the applications, I believe, to all the DO programs in the United States, a number of veterinary programs, a number of dental schools. They process all the applications for the University of California system, which is 23 unique institutions, and can manage without challenge 300,000 applicants per day to their portal. They manage 40 centralized application services. ResidencyCAS is a centralized application service, meaning applicants come to this portal, they create their application, and then they can apply to a variety of programs, right? So that's what we would be doing. We have a CAS. And they have created this ResidencyCAS already in coordination with our colleagues in the OBGYN community, right? So the core residency application exists, has been open for applicants to already apply to. They decided with CREOG, with the leadership of OBGYN, for a October 1st start date for this year, which was led by a decision from their program leadership. So they're going to be opening to programs in 2 days or 3 days on the 1st. They have a large number of employees. They manage 3.75 billion applications a year. So this is a small lift for them. I would say on the flip side, they have been incredibly engaged and highly responsive as we've kind of started discussions with them. And they do so with 0 downtime and 24-hour support. 0 downtime. 24 hours support. I believe that Almas was down for 3 hours for an update already. They have a sales fee structure. They have no fee for programs, and all of their tools are included. So that includes scheduling. They have no fee for programs, and all of their tools are included. So this solves the equity challenge, right? Where like every program will have the same access to these tools and the same opportunities. The other thing that they do is they reinvest in the specialty. So traditionally, the AAMC has had all the financial upside of the application process and has kept all the revenue from the application process. They reinvest starting the first year at 10% and then coming up to 20% of net profit back into the specialty, and then work collaboratively with the specialty to like improve pipeline programs and things like that, right? That goes into the specialty. They have programs signaling integrated, and they already have figured out their coordination with MBME, NRP, ECMFNG, and the SOAP process. So all that has already been done, which really simplifies the process should we choose to move forward. I'm going to show you this. It's so much more usable. It's just intuitive. They allow for the opportunity of customization for specialty, right? So as we talked about, we could have an EM-specific application. And then they also have a lot of customization at the program level. So you can decide what data you see, you can decide what data your reviewers see, you can decide how you score. And they have a very liberal approach to data sharing. Their belief is that the data belongs to the specialty, and then that the data is available to all programs. So the data is available from day one. Dr. Worley presented this data at the AAMC, and I think they have shown some interest in moving forward and being more progressive in terms of data availability. but historically that has been a true challenge for those of us, both on an individual level and on a specialty level in terms of getting access. So here's the application. It's at ResidencyCAS.com. It's live, and this is specifically the resident application portal. The way that their system works is it's a series of interconnected portals, each designed to facilitate a specific need. But the nice thing about this is that they are all interconnected with single sign-on and essentially just appear as like tabs on a website. And so the data flows seamlessly across. There's no push applicants from this one to this one, wait, things like that. It all flows across. So it starts with the med school portal. Similar to what's done today, the medical schools authorize applicants to apply. So the med school, the dean's office, can go in and create an ID for the student and then authorize them to start their application. The medical schools in their portal also have the ability to directly upload the MSP. And then if the student gives them permission, they have the ability to track that student's progress through the application season and provide support, guidance, help them along the way. Which again is helpful because I've already had a conversation with the dean's office this year to tell them that their application was corrupted and they have no way of knowing that, That feeds into the application portal. That's where the applicant does everything, right? So they have the ability to create their application, they have the ability to review information around programs, they choose the programs they're going to apply to, they then receive interview offers, they can communicate, they schedule interviews, and then they do the virtual interviews on the portal. They reach out to their letter writers through the evaluator portal, and the evaluator portal then allows us an opportunity to create a customized flow that has unique data fields that are abstractable as things that you can follow through the application. And so we have a flow that's data points as opposed to a flow that's a PDF. They have the ability, if they want, to designate someone to upload that for them. So if they have a colleague or an administrator that's going to help them with that, they can do that. The program portal would be the landing page for the program directors and coordinators. That gives you all the information about your applicant season in one dashboard, which we'll show in a few minutes. There's a review portal, so individual reviewers have their own portal where they can get highly curated by your program director information presented in a usually digestible way that they can see, work with, and then store if you choose to store. And then there's an interview portal that kind of manages all aspects related to scheduling interviews, doing virtual interviews, but they all interconnect. So this is the applicant platform. You can see their application is broken down into 4 sections. There's personal information, academic history, supporting information, and then that program, sorry, it's very tiny here, materials, excuse me. And this, so this is already built, right? And we would have the ability to customize specific aspects of this, but it's already built. It's really intuitive. They walk through, the green circle kind of completes as they complete it. One of the interesting and this is functional on Mac, PC, tablet, and phone. And one of the really interesting things that I learned through this process, state process applications for a variety of fields. But if they look at all applicants using their platforms, 30% of applicants are doing their whole application on their phone. The whole thing. Writing their essay.
That's great.
Yeah. Last night I was hesitant. Last night I was hesitant to buy the tickets to the show on my phone because I thought I didn't have it right, I was I can't see it all. Is it tonight? Is it next year? So, but this is really intuitive and it works for everything. Where it's going to meet them where they're at. They have the ability within the platform to request their scores and then see them show up in real time and pay for them. So they can request them from USMLE or Comlex, and they show up in real time. They know that the scores are there. They know their application's complete. They similarly can request their MSP. They can request their letter. So it's all really accessible for them. And those, all those relationships are already built and already working. This I think is a big win. So the cost for applicants is reduced. They both have a graduated fee structure, right, depending on the number that you apply to, and they both give fee assistance. But if we look at the average applicant in emergency medicine who applies to 46 programs, that cost goes down to $683 from $810, which is a reduction of $127. They also have the ability to change this potentially down in the future in collaboration with Board, if that's kind of something that was important. I think already they're able to hit a lower price point for our applicants, which is, I think, a big win. This is the program director portal. This can be whatever you want it to be. This is the landing page that gives you a dashboard that helps you track your interview season. You can see in the top left is kind of total applicants to your program, those number that you've reviewed, kind of interview offers. You can set goals in the top right. So, we've offered interviews to a certain number of students from our own region, or a certain number of students from an away region, or, whatever it is that you're trying to recruit to, you can set goals and see how you're making progress on that. You can follow your signals, and then you can see demographics about the students that have applied to you. Just like on your phone, these are like 4 widgets that you can move around and customize, and there's 5 more widgets that were too slow on here. So I think this is just a nice jumping off page for programs. The other thing that the program portal lets you do is customize the information that you present to your faculty. You also can see all of your applicants. You can tag them and follow them through, right? So if you want to tag couples matches, or military matches, or anything else that you're home student, right? Anything else that you want to tag, you can easily tag, sort, follow applicants through, and then you can assign applicants to reviewers. They have a holistic review tool, and this is the example that they created in collaboration with Creog and OBGYN. So this would not be ours, but could be a jumping off point. And their goal here really is to use data analytics to identify specific competencies that fall into domains and allow you to identify applicants that may have a higher rate of success in your program, or that may have attributes that you're looking for. I want to be really clear, this is not AI, and there's no large language models, so they're not kind of drawing assumptions. They're looking to discrete data fields that are submitted by the applicant. So if we kind of go all the way to the right, if the applicant identifies that they're a first-generation college student, or that they've received a Pell Grant, that then is a discrete data field that may suggest their lived experience, their background, things like that, that contribute to a domain, which they've identified as relevant to their holistic review, things that they're looking for. Program directors then have the ability to customize that for your program. And the goal here, again, is not to have a screening tool. I think we've been stuck with screening tools for a long time, right? Like, what's your minimum complex USMLE score? Where is your medical school? I think the beauty of this, as I've come to understand, is that this really allows us to say, what are those elements that we believe are going to be create a successful resident in our program? What are those attributes of a resident that we're looking to recruit for, where we want to maybe grow? And then how do we identify those and bring applicants to the top of the list so we can then read them, perform our own holistic review of reading their application and score them. So the goal is that this is really a surfacing tool as opposed to a screening tool. You don't have to use it at all. And you also have the ability to change this to real time. So you can say okay, if I gave more influence to their research experience, because I really want to recruit for research, does that help me identify other applicants to my program that maybe I would have missed otherwise? And so I think there's potential here. But this is, again, just abstracting discrete data elements that the specialty has identified. Then you assign to reviewers. Reviewers have this portal where they only get the applicants that they're assigned, and then they can really easily see the information that you want to show them. If there are aspects, I have some great colleagues that just cannot get past the board scores. And the number of times we've told them that we've identified really great applicants to our program, and they're now here interviewing, and they're going to be successful. I really want you to evaluate them on the things that are important to us. And the number of times they can't get past that board score. And so you have the ability to just show your reviewers or your interviewers those things that you collectively feel are important and that you want to recruit for. And then you can score within here. There's no opening of PDFs. It's all kind of really easy to interact with. They have an interview scheduler and builder that allows you to pick your interview days. Applicants can receive interview offers. They can schedule an interview. They have a waitlist feature that can be either automated or manual. Within the interview day, you kind of outline, what would I like? I want them to have this many interviews with faculty. I want them to have this much time with the program director, and then it'll put everything together. It'll avoid conflict. You have the option, if you want, to create certain kind of assignments, okay, we have a research track, and so we're going to put those that are interested in the research track with this faculty member. We have a female applicant who would like to meet our female faculty member that's recruiting that day, right? So we have that ability to put people together, and this creates an automated schedule that then goes into your interview. If you choose to do video interviewing within the platform, they are supported by 8x8, which is a software vendor, which is a competitor to Zoom. It's embedded within, and you just similar, I would say, to what the Dallas virtual interview platform is offering. You just click on the link to that applicant's name, it opens the virtual interview, you can see their application or specific data points that you want to present to the faculty member, you can score them, and it has worked really well. And so that, again, that's all just within one platform. Your faculty reviewers only need to have one password, they just go to one spot for everything, and the applicants really just go to one spot for everything. So this is like the 30,000 foot view of ResidencyCAS. And this is maybe the like 40th floor view of Las Vegas. I was on Pixabay for like view of farm fields from an airplane for the longest time and got nowhere. So I got Las Vegas. There's going to be a lot of opportunity to engage in this discussion, which we're going to talk about a little bit more. There is an opportunity to see this product. They are very happy to come and do full product demonstrations. They've done a number for us. They've done a demonstration for the board. And so there's going to be lots of opportunity around this, but hopefully we can give you enough information today that you kind of have a sense of what we're talking about. If we go to the head-to-head, so ERAS, right? We talked about pricing. 46 applicants is, of course, now you can't find it, $810. With ResidencyCAS, that comes down to $683, so $127 cheaper. As we talk about the cost of programs, ERAS is free to programs, and some of the Thalamus tools are, but not all of them. I will say that they are doing a pilot within ortho, PM&R, and ophthalmology, I believe, providing all of the Thalamus suite to all their programs. And in our conversations with the AAMC, they have suggested that that may be a direction that they look in the future, but they have not committed to that, and I don't know what the finances of that would be. So at the current state, those Thalamus tools for review and for video interviewing, you have to pay for. ResidencyCAS, there's no fee to programs, everything is included, and over the first 3 years, they build to a 20% reinvestment of net profit in the specialty. ERAS has tech support Monday through Friday. You have to email them. Thalamus is similar. I'm a little bit of a poker, so I do just communicate directly with their CEO and nudge him. And he responds to my nudges, but that's a challenge, right? And it's not as ideal as it should be. ResidencyCAS has robust support. They're 24 hours, 7 days a week by chat or phone. And the other aspect of this that I had not really considered is they're highly invested in the onboarding process and in supporting that. So over the last couple of years, or certainly the last year with CREOG, they have worked collaboratively with all of their member organizations to do trainings, demonstrations, onboardings, group sessions, unlimited one-on-one sessions where they will virtually sit with your program director or your dean's office or your coordinator and walk them through this to make sure that everyone's really up to speed. And that's something that's kind of core to their product. We talked about the slows, right? It's currently a PDF. We have the ability to customize and integrate the slow and discrete data elements that we can measure, see, compare applicants. We all know that that's a really valuable aspect of the application. ERAS is not currently using any AI. Thalamus has talked a little bit about using AI. I think it's in their pool, like maybe someday in the future, as best I understand. ResidencyCAS is very clear that they are using data analytics, and they're using data analytics to identify discrete data points that they feel may help you surface applicants that are going to be successful in your program. The other thing that they have the potential to do is use data to look at former matches to your program and those applicants that have chosen to come to your program, and then potentially do some prospective evaluation of your applicants and help you, again, surface those that may be likely to choose to come to your program because they have similar characteristics to those that have chosen to come to your program in the past. And so that would rely on prior years of data available to them, but it's something that's potentially moving forward. In terms of live dashboard, ERAS does not have one. ResidencyCAS has a customizable dashboard so you can see kind of the status of your application in real time. And all the integrations are there. They're up and running already. Every year, ERAS processes around 50,000 applications. As we mentioned, ResidencyCAS does 3.75 billion. So the extra 4,000, which is now up, will not be a challenge for them. And the AAMC has been historically challenging as related to data sharing and giving us information in real time in an evolving medicine application or in a kind of an evolving cohort of applicants for our specialties so that we can make the best decisions both for our specialty and for our programs, right? On day one, it's really helpful for me to know how many people applied this year. And it's wonderful that we have it, but it's still a few days later and in this format, not day one accessible to me. And then ResidencyCAS, right, really believes that that data belongs to the available, and should be something that we can then take and use for research. So that, in my mind, brings us back to the whys. And I'm going to transition to Alexis to kind of take us through this again.
All right, thanks, Tim. That was awesome. I'm Alexis Pelletier-Bowie. I'm the Associate Program Director at Cooper Hospital, Cooper Medical School, Rowan University, and also the EM Subspecialty Advisor there. I am here as a former leader of the Application Process Improvement Committee, current ARIS representative along with Liz, and board member. I know that we just gave you a lot of information. You probably have a lot of feelings right now. I'm really hoping a lot of it is excitement, but I can understand if some of it might be anxiety about more change. I know a lot of change has been thrust upon all of you over the past couple of years, none of which you've asked for. Some of it in the residency application process, some not. While you may have had some choice in program signaling for emergency medicine, you haven't had a choice in anything else in the residency application process. And so our big why, or my big why, is giving you that opportunity to have that ownership to make that choice of what the residency application process can look like for you. What is your ideal? What do you want it to be? Our jobs are hard. We have increasing responsibilities, and the residency application process takes up so much of our jobs as program leadership, when really what we should be doing is focusing on the residents in our program and fostering their development rather than spending all of this time trying to find our future residents. So our big goal is to make that process easier for you. And so going back to our whys, Tim already went through all of these in much detail, but just to reiterate, kind of on the bottom here, but one of the big ones that drove Liz and I were the data. So we've said this many times, ARIS has oftentimes taken a very long time to get us data. The dual applicant data that we requested at this time last year, we didn't get until after the match this year. So we're looking at 6 to 9 months lead time sometimes in getting that data, or not at all, or not getting the data at all, exactly. Which is not acceptable, especially when our specialty is having so many challenges in the match and our applicant pool is constantly changing. We need to be able to identify those trends and respond appropriately. So that was one of our big whys, why we started looking at this. And with ResidencyCAS, we have the potential to have specialty-wide data immediately available, program-specific data immediately available. So one big why. The customizability, another huge thing. So like I said, you didn't have a choice in what you got with the new IRIS application. This is just, except for program signaling, which we could choose the number of signals, whether or not we wanted to participate in that. Everything else, geo-preferences, impactful experiences, all of that is just thrust upon us. Now we have the ability to customize this application to our specialty and to our individual programs as well. And we can incorporate our own SLO as discrete data elements. The SLO is regularly cited as the most important thing in the residency application for emergency medicine. And in the format that we currently have it, in PDF form, it makes it very challenging to identify those applicants that have really performed well clinically in the emergency department without having to open a million different PDFs. With having that slow, discrete elements available, you can hopefully surface those applicants a lot easier. Also, along with the customizability and technology and support, again, ResidencyCAS is huge, and their support is 24/7. You really can't beat it. Reduce burden on program directors. All of the tools are free, all of them. Everybody can use them. You can use the holistic scoring tools to really surface those applicants that are a best fit for your specialty. And then as far as the student experience, so reduce costs, of course, always looking for improved functionality for them. And when we've had focus group meetings with our students, their big request is having interviews all in one place, so they don't need to have a million different schedules through Interview Broker and through Thalamus and our scheduler. This could all be in one place if we all choose to move forward with this. So what are our next steps? So we as a committee and as a board have committed to collaborating with ResidencyCAS to create an EM-specific application. So what does this mean? This means that over the next few months, 6 months or so, we are going to be collaborating with all of you to create what your ideal would look like. All of you and also all of our other stakeholders. So as Tim mentioned in the very beginning, we have created an advisory board. We have members from EMRA, CDEM, SAM RAMS, ACOEP, RSO, EMARC. We're including the DEI group, the chairs group, and we are holding many, many focus groups with all of these organizations to create what we would ideally want. At the same time, we're still analyzing what's happening with ERIS in the collaboration with Thalamus. They know that we have moved forward or are moving forward with ResidencyCAS. We've been very transparent with them as representatives to them that we need to do what's best for our specialty. And while we have developed great relationships with people in ERIS and they're wonderful people, we need to do what is best for us, and they understand that. So we'll keep looking at what's happening with that, and while we're thankful that they did get us the data pretty quickly, I think they felt the fire, knowing that this is what we're looking at, and that really drove them to provide this data. So, all right, part of those initial discussions include these focus groups. So we do have 3 hours, starting at 1 o'clock, to really engage with all of you. I want to make a point that it's in Sienna C, which is in the Delano, so not here in the convention center. The Delano is a specific hotel within Mandalay Bay. It's about a 15-minute walk, and it's on level 3. Don't look on the ASAP app, don't look at your prior emails, because the wrong level is put on them. One's at level 1, one's at level 5, it's in level 3, okay? So hopefully everybody is listening that wants to participate, and we'll find the correct location. So for the first hour, we are going to be focusing on discussions with program directors and program leadership. The following hour, advisors, and the hour after that from 3 to 4 students. And like I said, all of our stakeholder groups that are part of our advisory board are also aware of these focus group meeting times, have communicated with their respective organizations as well. So we haven't made any final decisions yet. Again, we want to put the decision into your hands. We want you to have the opportunity to finally make a choice on some changes that may happen. While we are super excited as a committee and as a board of what the potential could be, we want you to get there in your own way. We want you to explore this with us. We want you to provide your feedback. And we ultimately hope that everybody decides to be on board with the 1 year of research that we've been doing and agrees that this is the best foot forward for us. But in the end, you will have a choice to make a more informed decision. We will see how things go with ERIS and Thalamus. We will develop this application and see what that will look like. And we as a specialty will move forward from there. So now we're going to open it up for questions. And I'm going to hand it over to Tim because he's handled this really, really well. In reality, we are all available for questions, though.
Before we do questions, can we just please give them a round? I know the agenda for today was a little bit compact because of this, but I really do want to emphasize this has been over a year of work and visits, and the ResidencyCAS leadership flew in to meet with us and give us a product demonstration at our strategic planning meeting. So it's really hard to underscore and stress how impressed we are with this product. So there's a microphone there. We're happy to get that around.
The other thing I would say is I know that we're live streaming. I really appreciate the support for that because we know that this was kind of something that was announced not too long ago. Not everyone will be here at ASAP, but the live stream is not going to be the end of it. So, and I think we want to do that again. So we're going to be finding opportunities in the next probably a few weeks to share this information again. We're just trying to identify the right virtual venue for that.
Thank you for the presentation. Sean London from UConn. Can you answer 2 questions? Number 1, you mentioned that there was going to be this reinvestment in the specialty after 3 years. What does that mean? Where's the money going, if it is financial? Number two, you touched on the video integration. Is that going to be an add-on feature? Is that going to be included in ResidencyCAS? Can you talk more about that? Because that is a huge thing for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. The questions were about, that we have microphones. So that one's easy. It is included, it's live and functional today, and it's available to everyone. They've made it very clear that if you have a system that works for you, if you kind of have a Zoom room breakout master, and you have a system that works for you, that also works within their platform. You can just create the interview schedule, it can automate it, or you can do it manually, then you can take the links and put them in there. But if you want to, yeah, that is all, everything they offer is free and included, and it is live and we'll be working for this OB/GYN season. As in terms of the reinvestment, this is actually their strategy that they presented to us and that they have done with other area fields and with OB/GYN. So as best I understand it is that in the first year, again, because they're like bringing this product to market, like designing it, they reinvest 10% of the net profit back to the specialty. That climbs to 15% in year 2, and then 30% in year 3, and then 20%, and then stays at 20%. That money would come back to Cord, and it would be up to Cord how they wanted to spend that. What they have done with other, outside of medicine, what they have done is work on like processes to improve getting pipeline applicants to your specialty, to your field, to your program. That's kind of what they've done in the past, but I don't know what form it would take with the merge investment.
Could they
So-
just reduce the fees to the applicants with that money? Because they're the people who are counting pennies, not us.
I'm not sure I can see definitive of this. They have stated in our meetings with them that they're open to reducing the cost, and then that could be driven by Cord's guidance to them to reduce the cost. Is that your understanding?
Yeah, and I'm glad you asked the question, because I think it's important for us to be transparent about this, right? So what does the money coming back to Cord mean? What that means is we can reinvigorate our grants. We can have travel scholarships. We can hire additional staff, which we may need to help support this. We can keep our membership costs stable. We can keep our academic assembly costs stable. And we did talk to them a little bit about the cost to the applicant, because one thing that Cord has always been about is we're not here to make money, right? We're here to support programs, but we do need to pay bills and support the staff and all that other stuff. And someday maybe we'll have our wine and cheese back again. I don't know. We'll see. But our goal on this is to be 100% transparent on this, and I'm glad we had a chance to talk about it.
And we'll be given information, like to house that data ourselves that we've never had access to, so it's going to take support to do that.
I just have one question. This all sounds just way too good to be true. So I want to hear one negative about this platform.
So I challenged the board and APIC when we were in our strategic planning meeting, and I said, I didn't say Bond isn't here, but I did say I need a devil's advocate. I do. I need somebody to give me something negative about this, because what are we missing? Because I felt like it was just so overwhelmingly positive. And we did tally it up yesterday. Our cumulative program director experience on the board right now is 61 years. Our cumulative APD experience is 64 years. So yes, we're old, Mike, thanks. But we could not yet find anything very, very significant that was coming up. And Laura?
I think,
There are some questions over here too.
I think the biggest discussion that we had as a potential negative is not necessarily the product, which we found a lot positive with, but this is a big potential specialty-wide change that we have to be thoughtful about undertaking in an environment that we have a lot of other change coming down on ourselves. And I think we can all sort of spitball or brainstorm a situation we could create a disaster with this. Having 51% on one platform and 49% of our programs on another platform is probably a disaster situation for our applicants and our program directors. So I think there is a real challenge here that may not be about quality of product, it's really about, do we want to move forward as a specialty to something that may create a more positive environment, but we'll have a transition period. It's learning a new platform. It's, we have all figured out our errors, quirks, and workarounds and how to manage them on the plane flight and everything else. But there is an investment of time and effort that comes with this, and some challenges that come with the specialty that I think we have to be really realistic about.
I can also speak, the one thing, also being very data-driven, is we won't know the data about those who are dual applying to emergency medicine. I mean, we might be able to get on the back end from NRMP of who's, ranking multiple programs, but I don't know, that seems like such a minor downside though, for all the positives. Another question, or another thing that we need to consider, is our dual programs, our EMIM, our EMFM, our EM anesthesia. We are hoping to communicate with those groups to see if they would also be interested in this, but that would be, again, a smaller population, but a population of students, and programs that we need to think about whether or not they're going to make the jump with us if we make the jump, or whether or not those students, those applicants would have to apply in tuition service.
And just for everyone to know too, when we had a meeting with the CREON leadership that they mentioned, and that was my question was, how did you get the adoption of this? How did you get your membership to do this? And they said, we just told them that we were doing it. We didn't give them a choice. And I thought, that's one way to do it. So we very specifically do not want to do that. We want you to have autonomy and control and a choice. And we'll work our way back with these questions.
I mean, I think the downside is, I'm glad the data looks better. I feel that too as a PD, but I don't think that we're out of the woods yet as a specialty in terms of our match. It's still a challenging match for us. And I will tell you that when I have my other hat on, I advise students, and I watched them, people who are interested in OB, look at the OB application process, feel intimidated by it because all the advice that the school is giving them is geared around ERAS, and choose emergency medicine instead. Someone might have persuaded them that was a good choice for them. And that's my concern, is that I feel like, at least for the first couple of years that we adopt this, it may be a challenge for us, and our application numbers may go down.
I sat on a shift, and I fortunately had some time, which is unheard of in emergency medicine, but it was Labor Day weekend. And the student working with me was going into OB-GYN. She literally brought up her application on my computer, and she said it was easy peasy. Like, she had no questions about it. She showed me their version of a slow, tool, but she said it was so easy, and she did compare to some of her classmates what they were dealing with in Eris, and she's like, I'll take this.
I do think, though, I think it's a valid concern and something I thought about. I think some of the efforts that they've done, right, is that they've done a lot of education with dean's offices now, and we all have our own experience with how involved the dean's offices with kind of guidance towards emergency medicine. You can see Dr. Finks in the back. But they've done a lot of education there. Go Deans. The other thing moving forward is that there is going to be an API as well between ResidencyCAS and ERAS. And so for those applicants that are dual applying, it's going to streamline that process of inputting the data into those two. So it's not that you would complete one and it would completely complete the other, but you would complete one and it would pre-populate a lot of other applications. I would say when I was starting to think about this, I was really concerned about how are students going to respond. When I was a student, I felt like there is this platform that is the official one that everyone applies through, and what we've heard from applicants both with OBGYN and through our resident and student organizations is that they see this as a potential positive, and because the living memory of an applicant is one season, that you really only just have to get through that hoop one time of getting one class on board, and then that's what the 4s are telling the MS3s.
You alluded to one of the answers just now when you mentioned the API when it comes to the couples match. But I guess overall, the other, standpoint that you can look from this is that, yes, the individual students have a one-year memory, but I think that we we can't walk into this without understanding the fact that medical students don't like change. They don't like uncertainty. And when they go to the dean's office or go to the residents or they go to the other medical students and say, what's the deal with the system? Can you help me? And everyone's like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Like, we have to be, and I haven't made up my mind yet, but I don't think it's possible to understate how much outreach everyone in this room is going to have to do. If we're going to do it, everyone needs to buy into this, and they need to be getting emails and social media every week explaining this. This can't just be a, hey, show up. We need to be having like, sponsored webinars like with Rams and everyone. Like, this needs to be a full court press, not starting like in August. It needs to start like now. Or for I'm just saying because like we're already getting next year's students. And I appreciate that, but I'm again in the devil's advocate scenario. I think this is also the other message of this is like we also we're still sort of rubbing salve on our wounds from a couple really rough matches, and do we want to have the perception that this is emergency medicine saying taking their ball back and going home? Like, why are we doing this now? And I think we really need to have pretty aggressive and clear messaging, and we need to be upfront about it. And I think that when we put a slide up there for the other organizations and they see this reinvestment, it's just one man's opinion, it's going to create a lot of doubt about what our motivation is when from what the board is saying and everyone in the room is saying we're trying to do this to further our specialty. And I don't know why we would say yes to something that could impugn our decision making in this.
One thing I would say, and those are a lot of great points for sure. One thing I would say is that regarding the last couple of matches that have, obviously been very strenuous and difficult for everyone. If we had been with ResidencyCAS, which obviously didn't exist then, we actually would have known what was going on in real time. And I think that's a big deal because we would have known. We were shocked with that match 2 years ago, right? And people didn't have a chance to adjust their strategies, adjust who they interviewed and such. And like with this system, we will know in real time what's going on and be able to adjust accordingly. So it's something to consider.
From a timing standpoint, I think we're in a really good position because OB is doing this first, right? And so the one thing I would say is I know we're all uncomfortable when we talk about finances, right? We are. Right now, there is zero opportunity to reinvest in the current system. There is zero opportunity for us to do anything positive. It goes.
And part of the work that we've been doing behind the scenes, we've already had a meeting. We've emails back and forth building our advisory council. We've already had a meeting of the advisory council. There's a whole plan in place for scheduled meetings, and we also have a plan in place to do exactly what you're saying, which is those educational events with webinars, phone calls. Like, we're here to support all of those other organizations that are going to partner in this decision with us.
And ResidencyCAS is also available
Yes.
to help with all of that. They've been very flexible with being available at any time. They came in person to Texas to give a demonstration, but they helped OBGYN with all of their focus groups, and they're the first one to say, we need to educate people, we need to inform people, and we need to do it now, and we need to do it often. And so those things are being put in place. They are in place. We already have some webinars scheduled. We're working with our advisory board to schedule more. So yes, we understand. And all those points that you brought up, I will tell you, all of us have felt those things at different points. We all went in very skeptical with all the points that you're bringing up. And we want you to keep bringing these things up because it's really important that we consider all of the viewpoints and all the potential challenges. So
I want everybody in this room to think of something that isn't going to be a challenge or a negative that we haven't thought of. And what we have spent a lot of time talking about is the timeline and when to bring this up. And this was the venue and that we all kind of agreed upon to bring this up to the next.
Just before that, to clarify for couples, the process is not going to change provided each of those applicants is only applying in one specialty. So if there's an EM applicant and a surgical applicant, or EM applicant would apply through this portal, if that's what you choose to do for your program, the surgical applicant would apply through URAS, those both go to the NRMP, and the couples match is managed exactly the same.
So the one, I guess, other question, I thought I saw some point about soap, and so how does that really work? Because, I mean, thinking about all the OB applicants this year who are not gonna get into OB, they can drop applicants like flies, and it doesn't matter, and then they're looking at EM. How's that gonna work when they fall out of CAS and now have to do ARIS all of a sudden?
So because of the integration with NRMP, they're already registered and eligible. Currently for this year, they will have to create their ERAS application. The goal moving forward is that that API will again allow them to basically pre-populate the majority, but not their entire ERAS application. So those applicants that find out that they're good SOAP would have a process to kind of like migrate their application over to ERAS and then apply it in other specialties.
And what about vice versa for us? So pretend we're using ResidencyCAS all of a sudden, and someone from ARIS drops out and wants to soap into emergency medicine. How does that work? They suddenly have to create a ResidencyCAS.
Yeah, I've not asked them a question, so we'll answer that question.
And then the other question I had, I don't know if I noticed on there or not, did you guys have PMARC as one of your groups you're working with? Okay, because, I mean, one of my coordinators drove to alcoholism over thalamus, and the other tried to quit. So I can't even imagine what this is going to do to my place. I mean, it sounds easier, but training people who have done something for 80 years one way is very difficult.
That's my biggest
That is it.
hesitancy.
Right,
My former coordinator has been doing this for 35 plus years,
Yeah, and I think that to the point of Laura over here, like, I don't know if choosing individual programs is a good idea. I mean, I think we need to come to an agreement.
Yeah.
Okay. Because right now, anesthesia is doing that right now.
Yeah, we don't want to do that.
Awful.
That's not our goal.
There's
That's
students
not
like
our goal.
Harry Carey, I don't even know what it is, they're trying to do
We
that.
can't force individual programs, but we would strongly encourage as many to participate at once. Because that is one of the reasons that we did not go with the approach of central application, which is what plastic surgery and anesthesiology have done in a few other programs, doing these little incremental increases year over year. If we did it, we want to do it right from the beginning for everyone.
Thank you all for doing this. Dave Carroll from UF Jacksonville. First off, can we have access to the slides? Because I know that I'm going to need to argue this at our dean's office, so it would be helpful if I had that, if you don't mind making those public. And then second, on the back side, once our folks get in, right now, the process is we download information from data from ARIS into New Innovations. Will that functionality be there where we're able to actually import that information into New Innovations and populate that stuff?
They're working on the coordination with New Innovation. As I understand it, they're working on the coordination with New Innovation this year, and then approaching the MedTech, I think, MedTech, excuse me. So yeah, that would be their goal, and they anticipate having that on board for this year. They're kind of in the process of coordinating the data flow.
In response to your question about the coordinators, I actually I got our coordinator into the sandbox, and her response was really that she was ready to sign up this year because she felt it was going to be so much easier than jumping between ARIS and Interview Broker and Zoom and everything else. So I think we have to engage the coordinators in this conversation because they make all of this happen.
Or your life really good.
Yes, or your life really miserable. But for my N of 1, who I don't want to have quit, this is a very positive reaction.
Ted Stedner from Keniston, I'm the program director up there outside Atlanta. I think the point of kind of consensus is vital, and you know have acknowledged that. Is there a sort of a timeline or a process for how and when this decision will be made? I mean, I think that ACOG's decision to force it upon the OBGYN program, I understand why they did that. I mean, it makes sense because we can't all be, so what is, I mean, are we gonna say like, we're gonna put it to a vote, and if it's a certain majority, then we're moving and everybody, but like, what is the sort of overarching thought process of how that will be made?
So we talked about that.
And then our initial approach was, is it, and Jason isn't here, is it 41%? Is it 49%? Is it 30%? And really what I wanted to do was have a 1 or 2 or 3 year ramp up phase. And we don't want to piecemeal this. We don't want 20% doing this and 80% doing this. We don't want that. But the idea is we will announce something formally as soon as we can, right? Like we're still in some, we're formalizing things.
So I guess the question from that is, we provide feedback and ultimately the decision will be yours, is what I'm hearing.
It's a recommendation.
Well, I'm trying to understand, like, I get how will the decision be made, right? Because let's say we are at 40% of the programs, we're switching 67. Like, who ultimately makes the call?
You.
Okay.
As an individual program.
Yeah. You do.
Okay.
This is gonna happen, and it's a good thing.
Right.
But you have a choice.
Okay, fair.
Yeah, the board will make a recommendation, the committee will make a recommendation, the advisory board will make a recommendation, but ultimately, we can't force anybody to do anything.
And when I say this is going to happen, this is going to be available, is probably a better way to say it. I stepped in the chair mode just for a second, I'm sorry. This is going to be available.
Yeah, again, thank you for having this session and getting us all involved. Maybe I'm just a little bit of a hypochondriac or paranoia, but who owns this data? If it's a third party, like Thalamus, can Doximity, can employers, can they get access to dean's letters, board scores? This will still be protected, just like AAMC.
Yes,
Okay.
supports data.
I just want to make sure that that's
Yeah.
transparent to students, that this isn't going to be.
It's secure, it's private, it will remain that way, and then the applicant data will belong to our specialty via CORD.
And thank you
And
for
only
that.
CORD.
We will have a ranking system.
Hi, Abbas from SOCPD from Staten Island. Do you know what does the institutional need to release you? Do you guys know anything from CREOG? Like, what if your institution says, no, you can't do that?
Like you use the software? Or?
Yeah, like what if, your larger institution says, no, we're an ERAS shop, like, this is where we are.
I can only speak to how they described the experience with OB/GYN. They did describe that some of their institutions, really more from like the IT cybersecurity side of things, raise concern. I think some of us operate within those types of institutions. And they had success getting all 100% of the OB/GYN programs on board. So I think that helps, right? That like if there is an OB/GYN residency at your hospital, then they are on board already. But they have they have like a whole division at Liaison that does this, that works on like, I'm not getting this right, like the cooperative IT security agreements with institutions and figuring out what they need to do to meet your security needs.
This is just going to be a webpage though, right? It's like me going to Amazon.
Yeah, many of our institutions were not allowed to go to web pages. But yeah, I mean, that's what they've faced. They've faced either being blocked by certain institutions, and so they've kind of been able to overcome that.
We can't even get on Google spreadsheets, like it's a real thing.
Yeah. Yeah. My Bluetooth connection is blocked. I'm not allowed to use a Bluetooth mouse. We are hiring. And it's great.
Bring it up.
I think the other thing to think about is your experience as PDs going through all of the applications and so forth. And I just want to say that when they came to present us at the CORD strategic meeting 2 weeks ago, I was truly blown away. I was like, this would make my life so much better, so much better. And so I think that's really actually something that you guys are not incidental to all of this. It will make your life better. It will make this process easier for you.
Well, we're not, I hope you all have enough trust in us as a board. We're not going to get behind something that we don't really believe in.
Thank you very much for this. It's very important for us to be able to have this discussion. Brad Bunny from the University of Illinois, Chicago. We also have a dual program, IMEM, and I know that's a relatively small subset. But I was wondering if you have any inkling as to whether some of the other specialties like internal medicine, family medicine, and the like are at least leaning toward ResidencyCAS, because when we can get them on board, then we're clearly going to have a wave that we can bring to our dean's offices and other places in regards.
I can't tell you which specialties, but they have shared with us that we are not the only organization having these discussions with them, and so and that was sort of mine, right? Like, does EM, even though we're flying OB, like potentially flying OB, like, do we want to be kind of a follower, right? But I think that we are going to see other specialties go, and so yeah. But I don't know. They have not told us to.
I do think it helps us tremendously that we're not the first ones to do this, right? It's like your productivity in your group. You don't want to be first, you don't want to be last, right? So yeah. So I think just strategically this is helpful for us, that another specialty. It helps with the dean's office, it helps with the students. And the students, by the way, are already, they know more about this than we think they do.
If any of you guys have ideas on how we can reach that community the easiest, please let us know. Other than just directly Googling and finding out the program directors for each one, if there's a central place where we can communicate with them to have these conversations, it would be really helpful.
Okay, so thanks for all the work you guys are doing on this. It will be really important for us to hear OC's experience this year. So I think that'll be very helpful and insightful. Hopefully, I'm sure there's a plan to kind of gather that information. I just want to say, from my personal opinion, WMC has had a stranglehold on this market forever, and it just feels, I think, weird that we even have a choice in it. But listen, Eris is not a good product. It's not, and it's probably because they're complacent, because they've had no competition. And now they have competition, they're willing to put out more data. And the update that they put out, was it a couple years ago? In my opinion, is probably worse in some ways. Listen, it's not good. We have a choice that looks like it's actually a good, modern product. So I'm all for it. I'm 100%, and if I can switch today, I'm ready to switch today.
My only thought for people is, Eris is the AAMC's cash cow. And it does actually worry me that other specialties might be leaving too, because then I can see them putting a lot of pressure on deans to not allow their students to interact with our software. So that's the only fear that I have, being the devil's advocate. But other than that, I just might push Eris and the AAMC to actually improve things a little bit too. My last suggestion would be to present this again at the Core Scientific Assembly, and then officially have a ballot. And then if it's more than 50%, I think the specialty switches.
Can I ask a question? Just because I was not aware of the millions of dollars that AAMC gets from ERAS. I had no idea. And so I know when you are thinking about them being in bed, they are interconnected in bed. And thus our applicants are bereft of the financial benefit of us even being able to say, instead of $890, we can make this $500 for you, and it's an all-in. And so it's like anything I want to accomplish in my hospital, I always have to say, for the good of the patient, and then I can just wrap around whatever. If we're going to do this for our applicants and say it's the best for our specialty because it makes things easier for us to get the right people in front of us to get in our programs, I think it's the right thing for the students. And then we'll have to dismantle all of those strangleholds that the AAMC holds over GME and UPCA and all of the rest of the organization, because they will come back to the chairs. We won't be able to have 100% buy-in. And I'm a little confused when we say a choice because we are either all in or all out. There is no choice. And so we just need to make that decision, yay or nay. And I don't know if waiting all the way till next May is gonna change and padoodling around the playground. I think I'm just making up words at this point.
We're adding that to the list. Add that to the list. Cynthia's made up words.
So we're either all in or all out, because we're not going to have separate systems. And so I think we just need to poop or get off the pot if we feel that is the right thing for our residents. I'm sitting down.
I guess I would reiterate what you're saying, like if we can't have two choices, right? Like maybe I'm misunderstanding, but it's not that a program will be able to decide, or will a program be able to decide on going with ARIS or ResidencyCAS. Because to protect the specialty and the last few years that we've gone through to ensure that our numbers keep going up, students don't want to create two different applications for the same specialty. They don't know what they don't know. We already know that there are very specific drivers for them when they are applying into specialties, into specific programs. And I think we ultimately, like whether there's a ticker that tells us like which programs are going in which direction, or we all just decide to go at once. Like if I see that the majority of us are going through ResidencyCAS, I'm going to go with that because I want to make it easier for the applicants to want to go to EM and to want to apply to my program.
Absolutely. Our goal is to build consensus. And ultimately, hopefully, everyone will choose one way or another. I think, to my mind, if we see that this is going in a direction of creating a split, that's not a direction that I would continue to pursue. Understanding, right, that this is the first time that we're bringing this information, and that we do want to engage with stakeholders over the next period of time to like give people the information they need and build it collaboratively, but then hopefully get to a decision where each individual program is going to have the ability to choose, but none of us that have worked on this want to get to a position where we're not kind of all choosing collectively.
And I think that's important to talk about the time scale a little bit. We do feel very rushed in our world right now, right? Our goal was to present this, have more information, have some webinars, have some focus groups, so that the choice is easy. The choice makes sense for the group.
Well, from what it sounds like, the choice sounds easy. However, if the dean's office says you've got a choice, and they may make that choice for you. Yeah, and so I don't want somebody making you a choice for my program. If court comes out and says we're all doing this, you have more solidarity. The dean's office is gonna have a hard time pinholing you into something that not everybody's gonna be. So that's why.
I will say we have a huge advantage. We're early in this process. We're kind of on the wave of being innovative for our specialty, but we're not the first, as Bo mentioned earlier. And so we have a huge advantage of following OB's lead. And we're not aware, we have not heard of any horror stories like that about a medical school dean's office refusing to let an OB-GYN residency participate.
And also remember all of every single TO about it, so like the trees and things, so they're at schools, so they're already working with this platform.
And the other advantage following behind OB-GYN is that a lot of the kinks and logistical issues have been worked out already or are much smaller, so we can go at a slightly more accelerated pace than they did because it took a year and a half or 2 years of working with Liaison to build their current product, and we have the advantage of using very similar features and then fine-tuning and selecting what we want for our specialty.
Scott Henry, PD at Rush, asking on behalf of my clerkship director over there. Speaking of terrible products, do we know, do they have a e-spell option type thing? I think it would be worth it because we know that system's terrible and there's no advice on how many places to apply to take, and that actually may give us some better advising as well of knowing how many applications are out there and how they're looking too. So we'd be interested to know if they have a product because the current one is terrible.
That is a really, really great idea. I have no idea if they have that. So that's something
Just for the sake of time, I feel like we could talk about this for a long time, and I want to extend time to discuss other topics. I know we have several things that are going on, and I think we're in here till 12:45. Any day, is that right? Anything else, all right? Okay. So we got about 20 minutes. There's other stuff going on. We wanted to have an opportunity to talk.
And just to clarify, we invited the students to a session at 3 today, but also for any of the residents or like representatives of the residents organizations, we'd love to have you then at 3 o'clock to get your feedback.
Okay, it was a lie. It was about this still. It's nothing different. Question. So, I know we have to get off the pot at some point. Why aren't we waiting one more year to see what happens with the mass OB in? Yeah, I think we should, because we have a year to see what the heck happens when OB does this, and we get to see what happens in SOAP and all these other things, and see what all of those kinks are, because they haven't gone through a match season yet. They just started to, so I'm not sure why we would make this decision before watching the complete season for them.
So again, there's different levels of this. Like, we can decide as a professional organization that we want to partner with ResidencyCAS. Now, the adoption piece is different. So we will have to decide at some point, not today, when and how many programs want to adopt this. So let's go through a couple scenarios. So we partner with ResidencyCAS. Great, that's good. We get to spring and it's a disaster, right, for OB. I don't think that's gonna happen. And in a million years, I don't think that's gonna happen. But what if it does? Okay, we don't adopt it. We're still in the driver's seat on this. Nobody's being forced or railroaded, but strategically, our organization does have to make a decision to move forward, but that doesn't obligate us to. So strategically, I feel comfortable about that, and it's not gonna put us in a bind. It's not gonna put our organization in a bind. I will actually be off the board at some point. It will be someone else's problem, right? So I don't wanna leave a problem for someone. So those are all important things that we need to think about. But I don't feel pushed into a corner or rushed. That's the best way to get me to not buy something, right? Being the high pressure starts. Other questions? Yes.
Just one last thing. It goes without saying, but I think we should all have the program director leadership of our OBs, at our institutions here, like yesterday up through match, and just kind of see how it goes. I'm already talking with ours, so.
Did we talk about ADA?
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay. Let's talk about ADA. What do you want to know? Which part?
There's a change happening. We got publicly reporting about my program data, and I would love to know what boards take and response and involvement in that.
So the aggregate 5-year pass rates for each program that we made public by ABM. We have engaged them in dialogue, which means we met them right like the day after it was announced, and expressed some concern. This was my interpretation. I'm interpreting what I suspected. I said I'm afraid our program directors feel a loss of autonomy and independence in decision making, and so I did voice that to them. I didn't remember this, I didn't know this. I guess family medicine, internal medicine, pediatrics, and surgery all have this same public forward-facing data. So we, I think, have plans to re-engage them once this meeting is over, and we knew this would come up today, right? Of course it's going to. But I think this is a surprise, and just a surprise. So we want to get your feedback. What can we take back to ABM to engage with them?
Is there a reason that they surprised us?
What are the justification for it? Is it just transparency?
Transparency. Yeah, I think, and again, this is a limited conversation, so I don't want to put a lot in there. My thought is, I think they want to be transparent, and I think they would like students to be able to see it. We as program directors, and APDs, and clerkship directors, we know that there's a lot that goes into that potential first pass failure. Like, we know that it's not just a one thing.
And this is first pass rate.
This is first pass rate. Yeah, first pass rate. So I think, again, my opinion, I think they're trying to be as transparent with our specialty specific data as we see some of our others be.
You don't need a microphone.
Okay, I'm just gonna holler again, this is a horrible idea. We are just at the point where we are starting to look at bias and holistic review. And those other programs, they've got no data. There's nothing on there that says they're not looking at people and saying, oh, let me look, this program has an 80% and this program has a 97%. It's nothing to say that the programs aren't looking and the students that don't have very many hard data points. They don't know that maybe a program like mine that has a lot of resources is able to look at folks and say, I am holistically choosing people that I think could satisfy what I'm looking for in my program because I can support them through maybe some of the challenges they've had in test taking, whereas somebody else would not. And so until they can provide the data that has not harmed programs or applicants in the field of bias, you can't tell me that we're just going to join onto that because other people have already said, well, other programs do it and it's okay. If you don't show me the data, this is harmful. It's like saying police don't shoot black folks because there's no data looking at the police, the states, the circumstances. You just can't tell me it doesn't happen. What you can tell me is that it hasn't been studied yet.
So is there anybody from?
Huh?
It's okay. That's okay. Is there anybody from the AMM that wants to? I don't want to keep talking. I did bring that up in the meeting with them. I did bring that up.
Maybe the student will pick your program because they'll be just like some of your other residents.
We don't know. That's what I'm saying. There's no data. There's no data. That's all I'm saying. It needs to be studied before we just do it because others have done it.
And I don't mean to oversimplify it. I do believe very strongly, I don't think AMM does anything without a ton of data and a ton of consideration. I believe that.
I couldn't.
Doesn't mean we like it, but I do think it's well studied. So if I convey that, I think that's an oversimplification.
I will, because I'm interested in this. I think first, all of us are just trying to figure out what's the best way to navigate our specialty.
I don't think the student, in reality, I don't think the students wouldn't even know or care. If I'm being honest. They're gonna know but they're not gonna know what's happening. And somebody talks I'm just letting you know that they're not gonna know what to do with it, and I doubt that it's gonna really change what programs they're applying to. Like if there's a student enrollment count right now, but like, I think that in reality, what's probably happening is that, I'm not speaking for AMM, and no one has said this to me, but ACGME is not being transparent at all with a lot of these things, and so they have the data, and they're gonna release it. I think we're like, making a club out of something that we don't know yet, how students are gonna react to, and it's happening. And so I think we just, take like 3 steps back and figure out if it's even gonna change the way the students are applying programs.
But it's the same way looking at the proximity, these are the best programs.
But then what's your, then you talk to students and say, and give context. Like, we're just like freaking out about something that like we can give the context to the students about and explain those exact things. And so that students maybe who have less scores can say like, maybe there are some programs that have lower board pass rates, but like give them context to that.
I think one of the issues too for me, AMM in terms of transparency is they're trying to be transparent with this, but we as program writers aren't getting transparent information of who has taken boards, who's passed, or anything like that. It's hard to know, I can't address them, but these are people I thought they didn't do well on ITs, they were high risk, they couldn't do that, versus someone else, or I have people that do fellowship that don't take the test in so many years. It's really hard for us to address that all on the cycle. We don't know any of that. I think it's really kind of important to be transparent on one end and not tell us anything else.
So we have identified that as a, go back and ask AMM as a, for I think that
will say this, ADEM did offer to have a representative here for the meeting, and I was like, I'd like to get some other stuff done, so there'll be opportunities for us to visit with them too. There was another name there.
I'm speaking as a program director, not as the member of the board, but I feel like there have been several large-scale changes made by ABEM recently that did not involve dialogue with us who run residency programs, and that feels a little bit not great. And I think taking away the names of the residents who don't pass the boards is not helpful to me because I can't evaluate what's the root cause of that failure. Right? Changing the program attestation thing without discussing it with us is problematic and sort of creating this optic that you must sort of say something different now where we've been doing milestones. Suddenly saying you're releasing the public data on your work path rates to students without any context is problematic. So there's a series of events that have happened in the last year, which I find really problematic when we exist as an organization of program directors and there has been no attempt to bring us into that conversation.
No, just about, I felt like it was gonna go into world sports. The way that we raised about changes that were happening. I mean, I was personally, for oral boards, I was at the summit, and just so everyone knows, this is exactly what we asked for. I don't remember if there was a CORD representative there, but I just wanted to make that point, because I know we're probably gonna talk about that. That oral boards, the changes are exactly what we asked for when we envisioned what oral boards should look like. I just thought it was gonna go in that direction, so that was gonna be my comment.
I think to Cindy's point about a holistic program review, this is a poke in the eye of that whole notion. When it comes to Doximity and all these other groups who are trying to rank something that is not rankable, this is going to be one of the only data points that is available across every program, right or wrong, like it or not. There's going to be a list of programs in your feed. You can plan on it. And the problem with this is that, number one, it removes any ability I have as a program director to take someone who has struggled, who's been disadvantaged in this process for a variety of reasons, and take this person and say, I know there's a chance they're not going to pass their boards, but I believe in this person because they're going to be a good person for emergency medicine. This is someone that I want as a colleague, and I'm looking at them with my eyes open saying, you know what, this person is going to struggle in my program. This person is going to struggle taking the boards. They might not pass the boards on the first attempt, but I don't care because I believe in this person and I believe that they will be eventually successful. Everyone in this room, whether you're going to admit it or not, is going to have a cold sweat when you look at that person's application, because you're going to say, this person is going to make my program look bad. And it's not about the greater good of the people that I am mentoring and making future emergency decisions. It's about how can I stay out of hot water with my dean's office when I'm going to get a screenshot saying, why aren't you in the top third of programs? If ABEM has an agenda, which they haven't shared with us, which may be a good idea, which is that if they're trying to say, look, there are a subset of programs in emergency medicine who are systematically underperforming and are not preparing people for the boards, then they should say that. They should say that we, starting in a year, we're going to start publishing people who are below whatever they think the bar is, at 80% board pass rate. And year in and year out, there's a program that is taking people, not preparing them, and there's no path forward to board certification. If that's what they want, then they should do that. But there are a whole host of unintended consequences in this decision that I think beg further discussion.
I think for
My question though is, every year when we've had these meetings, we have had a representative from ABEM, or we've had representatives from the other constituents.
CGME and ABEM every year.
Right, so why don't we move back to that? Because it just seems like we're making a lot of conjecture and a lot of noise, but we're not going to the people that actually
we will, moving forward, we will have ABIM and RRC, again, back at Court AA, and this time slot we had to make a decision, right? What would we rather talk about? And for the last hour plus, we've been talking about something I think is going to be important, but that timeline, if we wouldn't have devoted time to this today, that would have really put us in a crunch. And so we did kind of have to make a decision. We also, I mean, let's not forget, we didn't know that this was happening until about a week ago. So at that point, the agenda was set, and it was a little bit too late. And again, in ABEM's defense, they did offer to come today, and I said we just don't have. So that was on me. That's on me. You stunned me in silence. Okay, for time.
Can I just say one more thing?
Yes, ma'am, of course.
Anything else? It just, we're trying to make all of these. Don't talk about me. So I know y'all can hear. We're doing all of these things in the name of equity, right? We're making things pass fail. We're going to only video interviews as recommended for equity. And so when people look at somebody like me and say, you're the reason these things are happening, good or bad, I'm not sure that residents should blame people of any flavor, color, whatever, for the reason we now have video interviews, or the reason that things are blending into pass-fail. That doesn't feel good. It takes away merit, it takes away who deserves what, and it takes away the individuality. So it just sounds like this was one more thing to be blamed on equity, when I think we should be focusing on how do we best improve and make things better for people who want to do the really hard job that we do, which is emergency medicine. We're not painting it with different strokes or different colors. We're trying to see what's making it the best, but I also don't want a very slanted view of the things that we need to do in the name of equity to be turned around and pointed at somebody that looks like me.
I think it is 12:45, and I want to make sure we don't. It's 2 miles walk over to, right? Okay, good. Yeah. Get on that scooter. It's time to go. Yeah.
Sienna C, 3rd floor, Delano.
I'm happy to stick around if anybody has questions. Thank you all for being here.